drinking sangria.
Nachos, lemon heads, my dad's boat. You won't go down cause my dick can float.
We sail around the world and go port to port. Every time I come, I produce a quart.
Put on your life vest, let's drop anchor. There's a nice lady who I like to spank her.
Boats and hoes, boats and hoes. I gotta have me my boats and hoes. Boats and hoes, boats and hoes. I gotta have me my boats and hoes.
All right, welcome back to the OG Minifan show on the Kirk Minihane Network. I am Steve from Providence along with TJ Hubbard. And today we have, in my opinion, the greatest podcast host in the history of the planet. And TJ Hubbard wishes it was Big Cat, but we had joined
by he had a jet. I didn't make it. I understand. Couldn't make it.
Kirk, thank you so much for coming on with us, man. I appreciate it. TJ somewhat appreciates it, but how are you doing?
Well, I mean, this is a lot better, introduction than the last time we did a show together. All of a sudden, now you're fucking kissing my ass, licking my nuts up and down. That's the last time Captain Swinging Dick. All of a sudden here. I mean, this is. I mean, you were, both of you assholes. Steve is first of all criticizing me on social media a year ago, whatever. TJ is fucking going down on Jerry Callahan, which has happened many times in Jerry's life. From overweight men with beards in Maine. I'll just leave it at that. But
rest stop.
Yeah, well, that was
too far for me actually.
Yeah, he likes to go to northern Maine. But now all of a sudden the greatest podcast host in the world. This, that. I mean, it's funny how the worm turns. A year from now, who knows? You guys could be, hating me once again. I'll take it while I can.
Well, I would love to give you a blowjob today, but after listening to Menders for an hour and a half the other day, I'm not sure there's any nectar left in your ball sack. So.
Well, it's the first time I've ever reached onto a man's nipple ring while he's performing fellatio on me, which is a new experience. I find it fairly erotic. I was surprised.
God.
Well,
so now you're coming down the home stretch. You only got 3 shows left to do, including this one.
Uh-huh.
Have you found that? I don't know if you listen to every show in its entirety. Have you found that some hosts have been better than others than what you expected?
The ones with me or the shows with me? I don't watch any of them. I've never listened to any of my shows ever. I've never watched I never listened to my podcast ever. I've never watched any of the YouTube shows ever. I see all these old clips of me on whatever that they repopulate. I can't watch them. I hate the sound of my voice. So I have to miss out on I am aware of my greatness, but I've not yet really been able to listen to it. Maybe when I retire, years from now, I'll go back and listen to everything. But I mean, I think everyone by and large has done a pretty good job. I think I talked to this with the drug guys last night. I don't get why people say, oh, there's too much. There's not. Who gives a shit? If you don't like these shows, it's a fucking completely open. Don't listen to it or don't watch it. Fuck do I care? I've never understood that. I don't understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the other day, I listened to a DEC show with you the other day, and
that was terrible. That was bad.
Well, no, come on. Whenever he's talking about prepubescent teens or Johnny Carson, he got into a groove, and it sounded really good. I liked it.
I just assumed. I went in the whole thing assuming that both Johnny Carson and David Letterman were just pseudonyms for like 12-year-old kids. That was my, so I thought that we were doing that. Maybe I misinterpreted. I don't know. It was good. It was fun because he's into it. And that's why, so like, I never get to talk. You think I'm going to talk about the fucking Steven? They don't even know who Johnny Carson is. So if I could talk about that for 40 minutes with somebody, it's a good time. I've enjoyed them all. This will be way more, I think, late. I don't think you guys are going to ask questions about me fucking going through puberty and where I went to high school and playing basketball. No. I don't think. I don't think you guys are particularly inquisitive or curious people. So it's a great place to land and just bullshit for a little.
Well, I can tell you that like you, I don't listen to any of the shows I record because I hate my fucking voice.
Right.
It doesn't even matter. Like fucking, I'm not going to listen to it. But as far as content, there's so many. There are a lot of shows. I can't watch them all.
Right. Sure.
But the ones I do catch are the ones that retweeted more often and stuff, and there's a lot more content. So the fucking I listen to every one I can, but run a business, got a family.
Yeah,
it's tough up here.
Well, I think it's tough just to, and I get that too. Like I don't listen to, like I said, I don't listen to the podcast. So I get how hard it is for people just to keep up with the podcast every day. I think today was like 235 or 240. It was today's show. So we're taping this on Tuesday. So I don't know when does this come out?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. So today's show I thought was actually a really funny show, particularly the last half of the show. But I understand the average listener who listens every day normally probably isn't going to listen till I'll see tweets about today's show like Thursday and Friday. You know, a lot of people seem to be 2 or 3 days behind. I get that. I mean, it's fucking hard, especially if you're home. It's impossible.
Now, when you have a last half of the show like you did today, that last hour, I would say, was phenomenal. When you have a last hour like that, does that and Monday you didn't seem like you wanted to be there, and you pretty much were honest about it from the time you came on the show.
Right.
Does that carry forward to Wednesdays?
Nope. I could wake up tomorrow in a completely shit mood. I mean, you know, you have no idea. And I went in today being like, we actually flipped it. We took the calls first today because I was like, we've got fucking nothing. I don't care. I'm so sick of coronavirus. I'm so sick of whatever this celebrity did. I don't care. So I was like, we'll take the calls. And the call sometimes put me in a better mood. And I was like, well, okay. And then we stumbled into Steve just randomly played that Marjorie Egan audio, which I kind of turned it into the poetry thing. And then that dovetailed into the other sound. And then we did the thing with the you know, whatever the hell with the kids and the pedophiles and all that stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like today was kind of lucky, but a lot of it's luck in reacting to sound and doing that. I mean, you know, we just usually don't have now 5 or 6 good stories. Now we just need this. I mean, I don't think I could be wrong. I know Rogan does a lot of them, but his is guest oriented. I don't think there's any other shows or podcasts doing 2.5 hours every single day right now during this. No way. No chance.
Now you're into it now for, I think it's coming up on a year anniversary.
In June. Yeah. Yeah. 200 show today. Yeah.
200 show.
That's what I was told. Yeah.
Do you feel, if you were to go a year back and you were to project where you were going to be, as far as the shows, you know, how it was going to look and how everything was going to transpire as far as everything they were created, the Discord, or your YouTube channel, is it about where you thought it would be? Are you far ahead? Are you still not where you thought you'd be at that time?
I don't really know where I thought I was going to be. I think we're ahead in terms of like listeners and downloads or projections like that from where Barstool thought we were going to be. Creatively, because, you know, a year ago, I didn't know. So, you know, a year ago, I guess I was still doing the thing in Intercom, but whatever. When I first knew I was leaving, I didn't know who was going to produce the show. I didn't know if I was going to have a co-host. I didn't know what the show was going to be. You know, I think so. To answer your question, no, I knew I was going to create something unique in its own world and all that stuff, but I didn't know where we were going to go. I didn't know where fucking Madawaska, Maine was a year ago. I didn't know. There's a lot
I didn't know. I didn't know where Madawaska was.
You lived there. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know, you know, I just knew that I had a core audience that was going to follow me. That was a good size, not crazy size, but a good size. And I knew Barstool would probably make it bigger, but a lot of it is you just kind of trip on stuff and it becomes something that follows us. I mean, you know, even like, for an example, like Matt Carano, like turning in, because I mean, let's be honest, it is absurd to suggest that Matt Carano might be attracted. I mean, it's obviously a joke. Right. I mean, it's unbelievable. I would just edit that out, Steve. It's so ridiculous. But I mean, that now has become, it's, you know, and then it takes off and the joke is that it's a joke, you know, that's the joke.
Some people can't. And I find this a lot of time, like if guys are going to show me about Big Cat or Jerry or whatever, it's funny. I get the joke. Some people get fucking so offended. It's like, it makes it worse.
Well, you two, I think, are two of the best in terms of just letting it, like, you understand that it's, we've seen a lot of people literally lose their minds. Like they just can't handle, you know, and we know there's all these names. There are people who fucking retire and they leave, like that fuckhead in Madawaska and his wife. Yeah, who thought that Latino Kirk, just because Latino Kirk grabbed her ass and kissed her on the neck, and showed his penis to her, that like that's harassment.
It's a big deal
because he didn't complete. He just pleasured. Like I don't think he completed in the bathroom. I think it was actually on the Baked Ziti, as I recall. He gave a little Latin flavor, which I thought was missing in the buffet. So
speaking of Latino Kirk, you guys are coming up with the 5K, which. I mean, that's great. I'm not a runner like yourself. That's fantastic. It's a creative way to get fans involved, get people out of the house, maybe the training. Did you find it a little ironic that a guy that probably dodged about 16 border patrol agents called you up and asked called you up and asked you for running advice.
I don't think that's necessary. I don't think.
Fast guys, fast.
For him to finish, it's going to be like the end of An Officer and a Gentleman when Richard Gere has to climb that wall.
He carries her out.
Yeah, he's gonna carry Mrs. Latino Kirk to the end, and we're gonna have.
I have breaking news. I'm going to enter the 5K.
You're in,
and Big Cat's going to fly up here. And we're going to hold each other's hand, do
the
walk.
Good,
and
good, excellent.
So obviously the 5K is a 2-day event. If you're going to run,
yes.
Well, I mean,
I practiced yesterday. I did the 5K yesterday.
I think you and Big Cat versus Mike and is it Ted? Is that his name?
Ooh,
is that who Mike's pushing? Is the kid's name Ted, the comedian?
Yeah.
Yes.
The one who's funnier than Mike?
Yes.
That should be a battle. I'm be curious how they do. But yeah, May 23rd. And the numbers are pretty good so far. And by now I think we'll have already given that thing away. So I don't know. But yeah. But I just thought it was a way to get people just like, to do something. Fucking do something. So it should be okay. I hope it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, we're all stuck in our houses. I mean, I'm gonna walk on what is called the green belt up here. Mm-hmm. But I went on there the other day and it was like 8,000 people on it.
Yeah, that's
because everyone wants to leave their house now. And
right.
So
now, did you, Kirk? Did you see that thing? So now a parody account is being created for Mike's Mike's Claw.
Yeah.
Did you? Now, what did you say today? What was the reasoning behind from when he was a child and he was fisting his mother's asshole? Is that what?
I might have said that. I said today. I was actually doing the AMA Discord. And I said his grandmother died. Unfortunately, she bled to death because somebody tried to finger her and it was a claw and she bled out.
Oh my God.
But again, but this is again another example of, why I think people like this show so much. Mike goes on the show one day, legitimately cries over his grandmother. And to Mike's credit, has a sense of humor to understand that we're going to play with it. I mean, we make fun of Mike's mom for being at the most horrific shooting in the history of the United States of America. I mean, you try to explain it to people. Like I was doing that movie thing the other night with Brandon and those guys. And when they ask me about the genesis of a joke and you say the joke out loud, you sound like a fucking monster. There's nothing. It's not funny. It's not, it's actually not funny, but it is funny. Yeah. So I think also people say, your show's we think you should have the biggest show in the world, the biggest this, the most. And I always say, well, not that many people have sense of humor like we do. Like we all do. It's a different group, which I'm fine with. I would never change. Like I like that. And go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
Well, I would say that. So traditionally, when you were at Sports Talk Radio, I don't know the exact numbers that you were aiming for, but I would think it would be kind of like an older crowd like myself and TJ that were right in the middle of something like that. But when you look now and you see something like the mid-Silento, which are guys that are in the early 20 years old, that are involved with your show, does that kind of like excite you a little bit that you're getting kind of a lot more younger listeners than you normally would if you were just on the radio?
I guess, yeah. But then that's podcasting too. But I also didn't I don't never set out and I'm like, oh, we're going to go this way today because the kids will like it. Or we'll go this way today. It's just not like I don't, I tell jokes or do whatever just to make me laugh. And I know the people I like laugh. But yeah, I mean, if I was when I was 24, 25, I would love this podcast. This is what exactly what I've been looking for. So, I mean, I get it. But, even back to like EEI days, I mean, effectively in a way, Mike is Mutt, right? I mean,
yes.
mean, you would do a poem about Mike's mom or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not at its core, it's kind of the same thing. But I always say to Mike, not to get too much in the history, but you guys both know it. I think I said to Mike the other day, you guys might agree. I'm like, the beating we give you is nothing compared to the beating we gave Mutt. I mean, it was Mutt would come in on Friday at 6:00 and we were for 4 hours, we would just savage him. To the point where it was just ridiculous.
Steve said to me,
was pretty bad.
It was great. Yeah.
Steve said to me last week, he's like, he asked me, I think we were talking about the gay cop that used to call your show on EEI.
Oh, Rich.
And I was like, geez, yeah, I kind of remember him, but what I remember the most is whenever Mutt said something, I would go right to my fucking phone and make a GIF and throw it at him.
Right.
Either, he's eating someone's ass or something. And that's why I just laid into him. So,
but he was a great sport about it. I do miss him. Like, it's actually funny. I never listened to I actually listened to him tonight for about 5 minutes. He was talking about the Gronk thing, and it was classic. Like, I forget, we used to call it Mutt Rage or something, where he was getting all worked up with the Gronk trade, and I'm like laughing. I was like, God, if I did the show with him tomorrow, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong?
Yeah, I don't know, Ken or Curtis used to throw in the
that music. Yeah, Ken would do that. Yeah.
No, I could be mistaken, but someone, or I could have read it somewhere, or it came up on one of the things where they were saying that you don't want to be an influencer to Mike or something like that. I forget the exact wording, but I mean, Mutt was beside you every Friday for a year and a half. And before that, you were on weekends. And now he's reverted back to his old style of what he did that got him canceled in the first place. But how it applies to Mike, if being beside you every day, 5 days a week for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, if he can't pick up on what you're doing or what you're accomplishing, that's on him completely.
Yeah, but I do think, and I beat up on him too, but like today's a good example. Like we did that thing with the cop. He played right along. Like he was funny in it. And like he, so that's where Mike's valuable. Like Mike is not as valuable maybe if you do some other stuff during the show, but stuff like that, he's good. He gets it. He's on the joke. He knows right away. That's important. And that to me is way more important than somebody, for the way I do the show, than somebody who knows, who the senior senator in Oklahoma is or what the bill is. I just like, I care about that stuff, but I don't care. I understand that that's not what I'm going to do every day now. We're doing a different show. And I think people, like you guys are old I guess I'm happy to bullshit about it for a while, but it's way less. Why aren't you with Jerry anymore? Why aren't you? And I knew that would happen, every week or month or whatever. It's less and less and less. And you hear Jerry now. I mean, I can't imagine working with somebody like that now. He just sounds like he's 300. So
yeah, I do not listen to Jerry now.
I don't either. So yeah.
It's a tough listen. Like, it's not what I want to listen to.
Right.
I'd rather hear people crack fucking jokes and showing someone's dead fish hand.
Right.
Honestly, I mean,
I just think that the thing that I miss the most is just you being able to beat up on people and the immediacy to where you could call if you had, like, if you thought of a funny comment or something like that. That's probably the only thing that I miss about you being on the radio, was just the fact that if I was listening to something at 6 o'clock in the morning, I could call in immediately, or anyone could call up and react to it. But it does seem like, man, people are afraid to go on with you. No one, I don't remember the last time you had a freaking guest.
Nobody. The last guest we had was like Brandy Love or something. Yeah, I think they're just not. And I keep saying this. It's partially me, but it's also the Barstool name. People just see Barstool, and Steve has to say Barstool's, the email or whatever, and people just freak out, which is even that I'm okay with now. If people want to do it, great. If they don't, whatever. But you're right. I think I said that whether it was, I think it was Menners or Mayo. That's the only thing I miss, is that something crazy happens. Like today, whether we're doing the poetry thing or the fucking thing with Mike and the cop and all those guys, you'd have 3 or 4 calls lined up right away that would be funny calls. We knew they'd be funny, and you could do it. If we did the segment at 9:20, you'd take calls at 9:25. Now, now you can't. And now the difference is tomorrow, we've already got a bunch of Steve. So we already have a bunch of people submitting poems, and we have, bits with DEC going back and forth with the cop and Mike. So that's sort of the new way of doing it, which is a trade-off for everything else I'm okay with.
Yeah. Do you in all these shows they've done, you get the Mitchell and Tell. They're good guys. I've talked to them a lot. Good kids. I probably wouldn't go next to Phil if he was wearing a backpack, but he's a very good kid.
It's ridiculous.
In your ideal situation, what would you want? There's some older listeners that don't like the newer listeners, vice versa. Ideally, what would you prefer? Do you mind that there's an argument, or
I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind good fighting. You know that. The only thing I mind is the here's, because I just don't see the value in like, I know your name, I know where you work. It just adds tension to people. That's like, I know you guys don't really care about that, but if somebody cares about it, why are you holding it over their head? Because you think you're a better fan of a show than, it's just weird. At the end of the day, there's only one person who matters. It doesn't, I'm not saying to be a dick, but I mean, like, it's my show. So, I mean, I don't know why some guy has to say, I know who you are or what your job is or where you live. I mean, it's a fucking podcast. I like breaking each other's balls, joking around, even getting angry at each other. but getting angry at each other in a way that's when you're done, it's kind of like, all right, and then you go on the next day. But I mean, people take this so fucking seriously on both sides. The older crowd, I think, gets super possessive sometimes. You saw with Matt from Providence the other night, who was literally red in the face during the fucking Mike and the Minifan show. But then the young guys can be kind of assholes about it too sometimes. So, I mean, it seems like it'll be all right. I think it'll settle down. But there are times where I'm just like, what the fuck?
I had that discussion a couple times this week, and I think the crux of the argument is that people that have a moniker and not their real name shoot fires at other people, and those people get all pissed off. And the only thing they have is to try to dox them or something.
Right.
It's stupid. It is. I mean, so if you, like I told plenty of people, if you don't, use your real name, then if you're not worried about it, there's nothing to hide here.
Right.
No one's coming after you. No one, like the podcast Gestapo isn't coming after you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it gets crazy. Go ahead.
Now, let me ask you, so, I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100% on the fact that you just got to enjoy the podcast. Like me, TJ, were talking before you came on, and we were talking about, some of these shows on YouTube are doing really good. Mm-hmm. Some of them aren't so good. Like he and I, if we don't have John Featherston or Brandy's tits on, we're not getting any views whatsoever. But we would just talk to each other not every day, but every
that's what I like about it.
About the show anyway. So why not? Maybe there'll be 20 people that actually like what we have to say, or it brings up a thought inside their head.
Sure.
Are you going to keep building the shows as currently constituted? Like if someone wants to come on,
sure.
What are they going to do? Just contact Steve and say, listen, I have an idea for something?
Yeah, that's generally how we do it. Yeah. I think Steve said we have a couple in the pipeline. So they contact Steve, and I think they do a demo. You guys would know better. Honestly, you guys would know better than me. You do a demo, and then we look at it and say it's. I don't think anything's been rejected yet. Just because that's kind of my philosophy. Throw it up there, see what sticks. I'm actually impressed that by and large, everyone has pretty much been consistent too. I don't think a lot have floated away, unless I'm sure I'm forgetting one or two. But the shows have been up every week, and I don't care if 162 people watch it or 3,000 people. But if guys are having fun doing it, or girls are having fun doing it, and like you said, if 8 people watch it and like it every week, it's free. It's out. It's like it's air. I mean, it doesn't really. I don't really understand. Like I said, I don't understand the opposition to it. I mean, I think there should be, personally for me, I think there should be a height restriction for hosts. I think if you're under 4 feet tall, I don't think you should be allowed to host a show, but that's me.
I am 4'1".
No, you're okay, TJ. I was talking. Yeah, you qualify. You qualify. But
it's funny, though.
Others slide right under that, I think.
I noticed the other day I was making a gif of Metters. I looked down at his eyes, and I was like, that motherfucker has the same eyes I have. I swear to God. And I was like,
that's true. I never noticed that.
I mean, all I have to do is speak Australian and lose about 100 pounds, and I'd be Metters.
That's true. Yeah. Is he the same age as you?
He is.
You think something happened? You think it's like twins?
Oh boy. Yeah. Jesus.
That's a show right there. There's a sitcom right there.
It'd be pretty amazing.
Good.
So a couple shows that you kind of tickled my asshole about it a little bit that I wanted was the 80s show with Brandon Walker.
Yep.
Is that still in the works, or is that canceled?
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny is we're having a tougher time getting it together while we're both in quarantine, because he's got like fucking 8 kids. I have a couple of kids. We just found out today in Massachusetts there's no school for the rest of the school year. We just found out today, which is devastating. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it was just it's already happened in Maine, right? Or no?
Yeah, it did happen in Maine. Yep.
Rhode Island, not yet though, right? They're talking about
they say May 4th we're back, but there's no fucking
no chance, right?
They're going
to revisit it
on the pod today about childcare centers, and my kid's been out of daycare for a month and a half, but still pay for daycare.
Right.
And then I pay for a nanny to come here so I can work.
Right. Jesus. Yeah. So it's hard. We'll do it though. We will definitely do it. We were texting last week, so we will do it.
What's the situation? I know a couple times you've had both your brothers, and what are you trying to do with them? Do they have enough interest in your podcast to where they kind of want to do something on their own, or is it just that every so often you want to get them on with you?
I just like to show everybody what happens when literally all the talent goes into one body out of 3. I mean, it was interesting to see a lobotomized. I actually felt, they actually did fine, but once they got going, but I felt bad because it's doing this. I find to be much harder than doing, even because we did it in studio that night with the 3 of us, which I thought was a little freer flowing. But you're looking at yourself right now. And when Mike would ask a question, he would kind of ask it generally, and the two of them were like, "You go first, you go first, you go first." But if they wanted to do a Brothers Minihane show on YouTube, once they got going, I think that'd actually be fine. And I think they'd be interested in it. I think the numbers were good for Mike and the Minifans.
I think both of them are pretty entertaining. I mean,
yeah, once they get going, it's hard. It's like being, Don Swayze. It's not easy,
I asked both of them at the Don Swayze.
It's not easy.
I asked them both at the Abbey. I was like, all right, so I have two older brothers.
Right.
And one of them's, he's a little off the rocker. So there's always one out of the three. So I asked him, which one out of the three is the one that off the rocker? And I just let you know, neither of them said you.
Oh, is that true? Well, that's good.
Neither of them. So
that's good.
That's
good.
Now,
yeah. So
there was something.
No, go ahead, Steve.
Well, there was something. I was fucking kind of bent out of shape about one thing that you had suggested was I don't know how the fuck you can ruin that Sopranos podcast, but that podcast is so fucking bad.
Oh,
I was all excited, and it just they talk over each other the whole fucking thing.
I honestly don't blame Imperioli at all. I think he's actually really good. Fucking Sharippa I listened to it this morning, the newest one, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for my run. I'm gonna listen to it. I had to stop my run like 4 minutes in. I had to stop, find something else, look for another podcast. You know what's funny about that though? I stopped this morning to do it. I stopped in front of a house where there was a globe, and I chucked the globe again. I just chucked it again, which I love doing. I should Periscope that one day. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow.
Take a steam and dump right on it.
I should do that. I took a shit on it. But you're right. I because it's my favorite show ever, and I like both those guys. But like, I think Sharippa just does not shut and it's not like he's interrupting with good points. He's a comedian, and comedians. I've been on enough radio and interviews and public comedians. They don't know when to shut the fuck up. It's. Yep. I'm lucky. I'm paired with the one person who's interested in comedy who's not funny. So it's good. He's the Dick Cavett of this generation. But yeah.
So now you were. I didn't listen to the Super Lemon Haze podcast. It's coming out probably while we're taping.
Uh-huh.
Now I really like that podcast. I've never done drugs in my life. Mm-hmm. But I do find it entertaining when people talk about something that they know about.
Yeah, they're into it.
And I reached out to them, and I'm trying to be supportive of them, and I told them they were doing a good job, and they were a little hesitant as far as not knowing if they had a place in your network in order to broadcast. And do you see even though you're not into drugs, you might have done a little freaking blow back in the day. And maybe,
a little bit.
What'd you say? You shit in someone's dryer, some girl's dryer, whatever.
Oh, I mean, that did happen. That did happen.
That's all the stuff from the past. But
yes, I hope so.
Do you kind of get like nervous that being associated with stuff like that at all? Does that bother you at all?
Nothing. None of that stuff bothers me. I mean, especially shows like that where those shows are not going to be live, right? Just because I don't know those guys. Maybe 6 months from now it will be. If we had two Minifans who were interested in fucking bugs or birds, I would let them do a show. I don't care. And and if it's terrible, that's better for us. We could play it and make fun of it. And if they freak out, that's funny. And if it actually turns out to be good, then that's even better. I don't, none of that matters to me. I have I think there should be a husband and wife show with like one of the husbands and wives who are both Minifans. They should be talking about their marriage every week or talking about life in quarantine or something. I don't know. I mean, just anything that could be interesting to people. A Kirkman. We talked about a book club. It was another Mike idea that fucking took off. When's episode 1 for that again? He fucking pitched that 3 months ago. I know it takes him that long to read a fucking page of a book, but still.
TJ, we're coming down the end. TJ, you got anything that you want to ask? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. You guys have a hard half hour, right? We can go a little longer if you want. You can go a little longer. I'm on tonight. You can go a little longer if you want.
Two things. This morning you said you wish you'd learned to play the guitar.
Yes.
It is. I played saxophone for 8 years, and then someone said the hardest thing to learn is not the saxophone, it's the guitar. Really? I've been playing for 25 years at least. Right. I don't know how fuck old I am now. But yeah, I've been playing a long time, and I tell you, it's hard as fucking balls.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah,
but you have to have the hand size. That's the biggest thing I find is your hands have to be
right,
good size. Every good player has big old hands, and they can go.
It was nice. Yeah, it's tough. It was nice. when it comes to instruments. I never play one. It was weird though. Carano offered to teach me how to play the skin flute today, which see, lay it up and just
this is where
he said the acoustics are better in rest areas. I don't know what that means.
This is where I don't know what you did to him yesterday in Penis Head, but they came into Discord right
They flipped out, right? I heard.
They said enough of the fucking gay jokes.
Oh, okay.
My head. Chris
okay.
says my head does not look like a penis. I was like, Jesus, you just made it so much worse.
Why would you ever do that? It's a joke.
Yes,
it's a joke. Carano is happily married. He's a little flamboyant, but he's happily married. A lot of guys go to different parts of the country on vacation.
2 words: open relationship.
Yes, very open.
Oh man,
a guy like South Beach. He's in the fashion. What's wrong with that?
Fucking ruining my show.
I can tell you right now, though, I did pick up the guitar and learn to play "Ain't Talking About Love" this week.
Oh, good. It would sound good.
Fucking unbelievable. I was laughing and singing along with you, and one of my favorite fucking bands of all time was Van Halen. So
greatest. I mean, with David Lee Roth, right?
Yeah, David Lee Roth, and I think I said the difference between Roth and Hagar. And I don't know if you heard that, but "Ain't Talking About Love" and "Why Can't This Be Love?"
Oh, it's true. Which is a nice sort of, but it's not Van Halen. When I heard it, I was like, oh, that could be like Toto. You know, like it was. Right. It's fine, but it's not. Yeah.
I had a lot of people around my high school. It was the late Van Halen, the Hagar. Oh yeah, we like that. I was like,
it's okay. Yeah, I loved it. Oh god, I loved Van Halen.
Roth,
as a kid.
way better. Yeah.
I'm fucking rattled right now. So you threw me off. I was doing well. I fucking nailed my open. Now you fucking rattled me with the Carano talk. And then I got catfish last
night. Me right
now. I got catfish when his show came on, and I says, "Oh, tonight must be the show where he's on with Kirk." And he's describing to his audience. He's like, "We're gonna have on Kirk Minihane next episode. He's a talented guy. He knows a lot about music and movies." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Well, let me introduce you to Kirk Minihane.
I said it today. Yesterday, I was like, he did it at the beginning of the show, and I was like, "What the fuck? Nobody ever listened to your show before." That'd be like me having like Bruce Springsteen on. Being like, listen, you guys don't know this. This is a talented musician. This guy has been doing it for 45 years. Bruce Springsteen. Like what? It's just, it doesn't, it's fucking, but that's, so I didn't know that. Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So they went into Discord. And
they were hot. They were, he said it's a low, Chris said it was a low rent joke.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Doesn't take a lot of talent to make someone in front of someone's sexuality. And I was like, well, what the fuck? What are you doing right now? You're setting yourself on fire.
By the way, that's exactly right, but it's still fun. It's funny because it's funny. I don't know. And Three Stooges are funny. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
It becomes funnier though when, like we said earlier,
they get mad.
They get mad.
You can't once you give in, once you give a little bit, I used to see I'd see with Jerry a lot when he'd get worked up. With Mike, like that's one. What's funny about Steve is Steve doesn't really sell it too much. Now he'll go scrub audio and he'll fucking, but like on the air, he'll actually fight back. He fights back way more than I thought he would, and way more than Mike does. Poor Mike. I mean, Jesus.
We when you left radio, everyone was hoping they were going to take either Kevin or Chris or Ken with you.
Yeah, me too.
And fucking, I'll tell you right now, Steve is the best, man. He's the best producer.
Yeah,
he does such a great job, man. Could never say enough.
He's the best guy I've ever worked with in anything ever, because he does I handle the show creatively. He handles all the other stuff, and Mike handles being able to find his way to the chair with some help in the morning.
With one hand.
Yeah, I mean, he's blind and has a claw, so I mean, it is kind of an amazing story if he accomplishes anything. So but you're right, like Steve, like Steve literally does every. We're working on something for next week, and it's a lot of work, and Steve's doing all of it. Meanwhile, he's doing a lot of sales. He's doing Wilbur. He's doing the 5K. He's doing this stuff. He texts me about this stuff. He does. There's stories during the day. We text back and forth. He doesn't stop at all. So I understand why Howie was so mad, losing Steve. It's almost like, no.
Do you think he's going to neglect the doggo because of it?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, the doggo is. Yeah, I mean the doggo is. Like I said at Discord day, the doggo is now fully trained. He can sniff other Jewish dogs from 8 miles away. So that's a good thing.
Now there was one question I wanted to ask you before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Do you feel so when you were on radio or whatever, when you were on TV or anything like that, those people weren't really your responsibility? I'm assuming when you pitched the job to Steve, not so much Mike, do you feel like if you were to walk away, if like when Merchant's wife said to him, "You're all done, you're embarrassing our family," whatever she said to him, if your wife said, "Listen, I've had enough," if there was any pressure or whatnot, and
why would my wife be embarrassed after listening to the last 35 minutes of this show? I can't imagine.
Fair enough. I mean, that's fine. Go for the fucking easy joke. I mean,
can't
you
imagine.
can be a fucking asshole all you want, but if you ever decided to hang it up, do you feel some sort of responsibility?
Yeah, a little bit
for them.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Even a few months ago when I went away for a bit, I definitely considered quitting at that point for sure. Like much closer, probably the closest I've ever been to quitting ever. But I thought, boy, I brought Steve over, and it's just a guess. I don't think Erica and Dave would be that excited for Steve and Mike, as good as they've been together in the past. I don't think they would be saying, we're going to put resources behind this show. So yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, Steve's a super talented guy. Like Steve would get even once this climate's done, like Steve would definitely get a job. And Mike, there are jobs for people like that. I mean, he could work at Panera, maybe maybe he could be, they have those library volunteers where they kind of walk through and, he could walk around the mall with his mom, maybe.
His hand could be a Walmart greeter.
Yeah, he could do something. Yeah, he could do something like that. Or he could be, kids could hire him to do that thing where you put $1 in and like you grab the toys. He could do that. Yes. Yeah, that could be a part-time job.
Move the needle around. Drop
yeah,
it.
he could do that and be like, oh, Dan Soder's got a funny stand-up special, and shut the fuck up. That whole thing.
Do you have Kirk? Before we get out of here, do you have anything for the 14 people that are watching?
Well, I think there's gonna be more than 14 people watching this one.
Yeah,
I feel confident about that. And I love this, but I say it all the time. I enjoy this one. No, it's funny though. Like, I know where Steve was. Where were you, TJ? Like during the whole, did you just not listen to the interview enough about me stuff? Were you out? Were you as angry as Steve? Because Steve was like angry, like tweeting, like you're a motherfucker. I wish you had killed yourself. It was like really personal.
I never said that.
It was 6 months.
You said it to me personally. You messaged me. If you could, like, why didn't you kill yourself?
You're fucking lying.
You text me train schedule.
He sent you a rope.
He sent me. He's like, the train goes a little faster at this stop and this thing. I'm like, Jesus, Steve. I know you missed the old show, Steve, but Jesus.
You're being a fucking asshole, because the only thing that I will still say this, and I turned out to be right, because I am just fucking brilliant. That you are much better where you are right now. I know that there was a guaranteed $1 million paycheck at Intercom.
There definitely was
with Mark Moroso. But I mean, are you not having more fun now than
I'm having more into it? But it is amazing. I would do shows with Mark Moroso, right? Every 2 weeks, I do a show with Mark Moroso. A couple of days a week. They didn't even tell me, like I always say, I didn't have to do anything at all. I was just doing it just to do it. We'd do it. Wouldn't matter. Sometimes the interviews are good. Sometimes they weren't. Some people would tweet at me. Nobody was paying attention. And every 2 weeks, I would get a check for like $35,000.
Fucking unbelievable.
And then I would get every couple of months, because I guaranteed to leave. I said, you're going to pay me my first place bonuses because I'm not getting bonuses for these podcasts. So then every 3 months, I get a couple of times I would get checks for like $100,000.
That's fucking insane.
And I had done one podcast for 17 minutes with Mark Moroso, interviewing him for the producer's job. And you wonder why Intercom is so fucking stupid.
17 minutes of Moroso talking. You got paid $35,000 for it.
Yeah. And I would look at it and I'd say, this is not. And I would talk to the people at Intercom, not David Field, but other people who were nice. And they would say, Kirk, just shut up. Just shut up and take the check. Like, what are you doing? Just take the check. And, because I'm fucking stupid and crazy, I couldn't do it. So now I'm making less. I'm making a nice living, but I'm making, less money to do this show with Steve and Mike. But I wouldn't I wouldn't have stayed at Entercom. I walked away. 10 million a year, 15 million a year. At some point, you just got to say, fuck it. And I did what most normal people do. I fucking rolled around a Barnes and Noble and got out of the job, cried my way out of the job. So I'm glad. I know Steve wasn't the only one. There were a lot and that would frustrate me because I knew they were right in a way that I knew I was capable. Here's the thing, 99.4% of what we do on the show now, we could have done at radio.com. This could be a show on radio.com. This could be a 24-hour thing. They're so fucking dumb. They don't know what they're doing. So, I'm glad I got out. I'm enjoying myself most of the time.
Good. Very good.
I think the show would bury anything on radio.com, and that's sad.
I would think so. I would hope so. Jesus.
All right. Well, listen, we went over my hard cap of 30 minutes. I appreciate you.
I'm sorry about that.
Kirk, I love you.
Love you, boys.
I love you guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you. I don't know when we'll see you next. I don't know if it's going to be the Wilbur. I don't know if it's going to be Madawaska again. I don't know. Steve offered to Steve offered me to drive me this truck to Madawaska.
You're a fucking asshole.
Dude, that's true. That is true.
I did.
Wait a second. I offered this son of a bitch a ride, and he bailed on me.
Steve's like, I know. He's like, is your extra bedroom okay? We'll stay over. We'll have dinner. We'll go to a movie. Then we'll leave early the next day. Maybe we'll go for a run. He pitched the whole thing.
Hang on, get the sawzall with a rubber fist on it.
It was the middle of a fucking blizzard, and
right.
I asked nicely, and my response was, I think I'm good. I'm going to take the weekend Mercedes. I was like, you're just a fucking dick.
I did take the weekend Mercedes. I did.
Right.
I did. But that was great. That was a great weekend, though. That was. All right, boys.
It was.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you, buddy.
Right.
See you guys. Thanks,
Right.
TJ. Thanks, Steve.